So a while back, I helped kickstart a game called 1980X by Hybit Studios, and for over a year, I've been really excited to play this game. I finally got my PS4 copy earlier today, and all day I was ready to get home to play it. I booted up my PS4, started the game, and within the first 20 minutes, I was completely blown away. So much so that I was ready to call it my game of the year. But that wasn't the end of the story. 1980X is a retro-style narrative multi-genre game. The story follows a young woman who is looking for something her small town can't provide. She's able to find solace in a nearby underground arcade, and these narrated cutscenes are interspersed with arcade-style minigames whose themes are familiar to the hardships our main character is experiencing. One thing that took me by surprise right off the bat was the amazing care that was given to the game's visuals and soundtrack. The soundtrack is actually so good it made me regret not buying the vinyl reward in the Kickstarter, and I really hope the developers at least release it digitally in the future. The narrative also surprised me, as I wasn't aware of how much of the game was actually going to be spent following a story versus the time in the arcade games. The story is a bit hard to follow, as things are purposely left vague, but it's very easy to relate to the feelings of rebellion and angst the main character feels in the first part of the story. That's right, the first part. 1980X is actually just the first part of a multi-game epic telling this story, and this first part is only going to last you around 2 hours tops. In fact, my playthrough lasted almost exactly an hour and a half. The game is launching at $10 US, so keep the length versus the price in mind if you're looking to buy it. I don't want to spoil too much because I did really enjoy my time through this game, at least in the beginning. I'll be talking about the gameplay of each arcade minigame offered, but I won't be spoiling the narrative of certain events that I feel are best left inexperienced until your first playthrough. However, I will be showing off a good amount of the game, so be forewarned. The first game, Beating Heart, is a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up that really just serves as our intro into the world. There isn't much you can do by way of fighting, so it's really just a matter of mashing the attack button and drinking in the nostalgia. The second game, Out of the Void, is a horizontally scrolling shooter, which for the record I'm generally horrible at, that I actually had a ton of fun playing. I died a couple times, but I actually felt it was doing a great job teaching me how to play it as I went through. The next game, The Runaway, might actually be one of my favorite experiences in gaming this year. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but at a certain point there's a shift where the game starts to bleed into our character's thoughts, and the way the scenery and music changes is just mwah. Plus, the top speed of the car is 255, which is the maximum value of an 8-bit integer, commonly used in arcade games at the time. So I don't know if that was an intentional reference or not, but I really liked it nonetheless. Unfortunately, the experience starts to take a bit of a turn here. The next game, Shadowplay, has a giant jump in difficulty. No longer are you cruising through a cityscape during an introspective daydream. Now you're running and slashing and jumping and ducking and dodging and collecting power-ups. It's a bit overwhelming, and I was terrible at this part. Really, it just comes down to repetition and memorizing what hazards are coming up next. This would be fine and is actually pretty true to form of games for that era, but I died more because my character's animations were too slow, giving me barely enough time to react to anything without getting hit. My frustration was at a high during this point and actually made me retract calling it Game of the Year. The next game, Killscreen... Wait. Killscreen? I might need to sue somebody. While Shadowplay had you trying to handle obstacles and enemies at breakneck speeds, Killscreen does the exact opposite and takes you to a dungeon-crawling RPG. As I started playing this, I seriously thought I was going to hate it. I kept dying over and over, not being able to defeat the earliest of monsters, but as time went on, I leveled my character up and went through the final bosses with ease. I want to take this moment to note that I love that each game took slightly longer than the last to complete, at least in my playthrough. It was a cool little ramp up that made each successive game feel more important than the last, since I was putting more time into it. Unfortunately, that wasn't always a good thing, like in the case of Shadowplay. I really did enjoy playing through this game, I just really wish there was more there. A more cohesive, complete arc to the first chapter would be nice, as it ends on a pretty unfulfilling cliffhanger. There's also not really that much progression in the story at all, at least past the first couple of minutes. The arcade games are fun little distractions, but I don't really feel like they did a good enough job along with the cutscenes to actually provide me with a captivating experience. I mean, I get what they were going for with trying to tell the story using these two different mediums, but I just hope they pull it off better in part 2, whenever that may be. Note that the following score does not represent the overall quality of the game, but rather how much I would recommend checking it out based on my experience playing through it. With that being said, 3.5 out of 5, recommended. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a comment telling us what you think, and of course subscribe for more of these as well as other great video game content. Also, please consider supporting us on Patreon or becoming a member on YouTube. And we'd like to give a special thanks to those folks right now. Some grass clippings: William Mathers, Kai M, Stephen Castaneda, TUM, and Tom Callahan. Thanks, guys. See you next time.